to thank you all for coming out today to draw awareness on this touchy subject. As you know, it can be very difficult for a person to come bear their past and their pain. I'm coming for a dear friend of mine, a very close friend of mine who asked me to step up and share her story. Her story began with self-destruction at 12. Her mother was going through her third divorce and had to take boarders on to help with rent and bills. But a lot of her time, her mother was trying to deal with her own demons. So the money ended up in the slots. Rent was cheap for the boarders, so plenty of money was left for liquor, beer, and cocaine. Not the best home life for a 12-year-old, you could say. Hard to blame the kid for self-mutilation and medicating herself to fill the void of her American dream. A trusted friend of her family decided he would rape her while she was unconscious. What was supposed to be her safe haven then became her hell. 2 weeks later, she would find out she was pregnant, which led her to an abortion clinic for yet another humiliating and painful experience. Some felt it necessary to call her a murderer. Small wonder she turned to more drugs and cutting herself to deal with this pain. Many mental institutions unsurprisingly failed to help her. School wasn't a safe place because of bullying. She was called fat, ugly, poser, slut. The names contained it in a physical abuse, where she finally defended herself, resulting in expulsion. Her mother grew tired of her actions and antics and sent her to Mexico City, where she would try helping to silence her pain. She never returned to school. Instead, she sought a false ID and started working to help support her family, or in her words, buy their affection and time. It failed to work, so she isolated herself and continued using drugs, self-inflicting wounds to her body. At her highest paid job, where she worked as a high-demanded waitress at a bar/pool hall, her boss would tell her she would lose her job if she did not do one of the following: prostitute herself or sell cocaine. She could not afford to lose this job, so she made the decision to sell the dope, because she swore no one would ever violate her body again. Boy, was she totally wrong. On her last night working at the bar, she refused service to 3 obnoxious guys stirring up trouble and had them escorted out, where hateful, threatening words was exchanged. Little did they all know, they would come in contact with each other again, and the empty threats would be just everything but that. 3 weeks later, she was walking home and took a shortcut through an alleyway where, of course, the guys found her. They cornered her in and forcefully holding her arms out, began cutting and ripping her hair from her scalp. The others beat her beyond recognition, knocking out her teeth, then proceeded all taking turns sexually assaulting her, spitting, kicking, punching, and ultimately stabbing her and dumping her body by a dumpster, leaving her for dead. Her innocence, if she had any left at this point, vanished that day, and fueled the pain for full throttle for the path leading up to her fatal blow. She never talked about that day with her family. They sure didn't bother to ask. Time passed, she went on to more institutions. She tried to end her life recklessly. She was good at hurting. In fact, she was beautiful at it. She hid behind her sweats and her hoodies to cover the mutilation she did to her body. Her self-esteem became non-existent at that point. She was a walking dead. There was such a void in her. She latched onto the idea of death and suicide. Well, that was until her dad reached out and needed her. So she suited up in armor, put a wall up against herself and others, and faked a smile every day. She became aggressive towards life, people, and herself. She often fought with her reflection. After all, she wanted to be normal and blamed her appearance for her shortcomings. On her last fight, which wasn't with herself but with her father, brutal things said, hateful, and violent punches thrown in the form of words. The very next morning, her dad left to take the kids off to school, and she got ready at home to have breakfast with him upon his return. Only a bang at the door was answered by the police. They told her her father was at the hospital. She knew it had to be serious because her dad never went to the doctor, let alone a hospital. She arrived at the hospital where doctors led her to a room. Upon entering, She let out a scream that could pierce someone's soul. It was her dad dead on the table. He was found slumped over the steering wheel in his car at the kids' school, where he died of cardiac arrest. She ran to his side and tried to lift him off the table. She said, "Dad, you're fine. I'll get you home. You'll be better tomorrow." She wanted to say sorry, but circumstances left her so silent. It took 3 workers to remove her from her dad's side for her to be able to breathe again. Her screams were haunting. She held the memorial for him, and it took her coming back alone to his home where she now was an adult, but then discovered she was everything but that. She was a child that was lost at the age her story began. She knew it wasn't the memories, the drugs, or the vacancy in her life and heart. It was her, the girl in the mirror, the one who swore she could handle loneliness. She was her own worst enemy. In her eyes, her hatefulness killed her father, and she wished it was her. These words were not words of guilt or pity, but her scary truth. So she took off and she moved to North Carolina in search of a new beginning and fair fighting chance. Once again, now as an adult, she still was a walking target for these bullies. People do not like the unfamiliar, and she was just that. People swore they knew her type. She chose to down 2 bottles of pills and get behind the wheel seeking an end to all of this. She collided head-on with another vehicle where her car was set afire. She was going to die this way. She knew it was over for her. Only she was yanked out of the car in time and walked away with just 2 broken feet and fractured ribs. After losing her job, she was forced to move to a homeless shelter. She eventually made it out and tried to move on. She reached out to her sisters, but yet again was rejected. She was dying to be understood. She hurt herself before others could. She thought she was crazy, and she was not lovable. On her dad's 1-year death anniversary, she set out for her finale, that final blow, December the 16th of 2015. She committed suicide. It took her getting into a dark, desperate place to reach this decision. Paramedics worked on her relentlessly, fracturing her chest. They airlifted her to Asheville, where she would flatline 3 more times on the way. She never stopped to think her actions would leave anyone devastated or endure them the same amount of pain they gave to her. Her mom received the dreaded yet expected call, saying she was found with no pulse, had reached hypothermia. They took a good 5 to 6 hours to get her body temperature back to normal. She was left in a coma on life support with a 2% chance of survival. She explained it as a journey she took while in her coma. She found her dad and ran up to him in tears to say sorry, and went to try to hug him, but he did what everyone else did to her, pushed her away before possibly they could cut her off of life support. She woke up to take her first breath to a new start. There is a saying out there, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Let me introduce you to her. My name is jojo Smith, and I'm a suicide survivor. I know I don't owe any of you an explanation, but I do owe my voice to others, so I'm not here to talk. At the time all these events came to unfold, I was screaming inside for help. Loneliness had become my best friend. I was a master to my own failures. I would smile and tell everyone that I was fine. The fact that I believed it was just downright ludicrous. I'm here in front of you all, bearing my truth. We're not crazy. We're our own worst critic and enemy sometimes. If no one tells you this, just know you're the only version of you. Your madness holds a unique beautifulness. And the fact that you wake up and fight every day to remain here is courageous, but it makes you downright flawless. I got the help I needed. I'm 7 months sober, and I have a very good support group. I let my bullies and sexual assaulters and my inner demons kill me. I surrendered, but was blessed with a second chance. fight, stand up, demand to be heard like myself. Myself and others showed no warnings. I never stopped to consider that I was paving the way to someone else's destruction. If you can't find a reason to live for your family and friends, live for yourself. Be beautiful, dare to be different. That's what I am. I broke my own heart reading this story to you all today. But to me, it's worth it in order to save one of y'all. Suicide is 100% preventable. Reach out and save someone. You can't save them all, but one is a damn good start. I want to thank you all for coming out. I want to thank you all for this chance to have my voice heard and to share my story.
Go, Jojo!
Go, girl!